A respected NFL.com writer says that decision day could loom for the Falcons with its coach Dan Quinn, but believe it or not, that doesn't mean Atlanta still might not beat the Rams this Sunday. We'll try to figure out where everything stands next on AJC Falcons News Now.
This is AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Brandon Adams and former Atlanta Falcon Chuck Smith.
We've obviously discussed a scenario over and over again over the last few weeks about disappointment for the Falcons' 1-5 start. We talked last week on the show about how Peter King, longtime writer, said the Falcons may be the biggest disappointment in the entire NFL. However, I'm not quite so sure that's necessarily the case. Maybe even the team across the field from the Falcons on Sunday, the LA Rams, might be even bigger disappointment. Better record at 3-3, but as bad as things have been for the Falcons, Chuck Smith, I do believe there's a chance you can win this game on Sunday if you're Atlanta, because I'm not quite so sure, relative to expectations, the Rams haven't been an even bigger disappointment.
Well, the Rams right now, they're really, struggling right now, especially Jared Goff at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the offensive line hadn't been able to protect. But you're right. This team is a disappointment because when you look at what they had last year, I mean, you got Aaron Donald, two-time Defensive Player of the Year. You got Goff. You got all these great players, and they got so close. And now, they've fallen apart, so to speak. They've lost, 3 in a row coming to Atlanta. It's really close because of the personnel. But I'm going to lean on Atlanta because, to me, we are better personnel-wise.
Okay.
So for Atlanta to be 1-5, I think the Rams are second in my book, but I totally understand the Rams can be 1, Falcons 2. It can go both ways, in my opinion.
So it's an interesting scenario for Atlanta with a game on Sunday that if things kind of bounce the right way, you can win, but obviously a lot at stake for Dan Quinn, which we'll get into. It's AJC Falcons News Now. It's sponsored by Miller Lite. My name is Brandon Adams. This is the former Falcon Chuck Smith. For those of you watching on Facebook, of course, we'll take a lot of your comments throughout the program here today. Let me also, off the top of the program, say hello to our YouTube audience there as well. If you're tuning in on YouTube right now, drop your comments in the comment section too, and we'll talk to you throughout the afternoon here as we get ready for Falcons and Rams on Sunday. And of course, what potentially looms here even beyond the result of Falcons-Rams with the Seahawks the week after that is the future for Dan Quinn as Falcons coach. And I've told you before, and I'm not going to back down from this, I think the only relevant conversation to happen around Quinn is when he's removed as Falcons coach. I think it's obvious now there's a mounting level of evidence that he's not going to be able to correct what's broken with Atlanta. So it simply comes down to when it's going to happen, when that change is going to be made. There was a suggestion made from an NFL Network insider, a guy you've seen on TV, a guy you may have read at NFL.com, that could come as soon as this stretch of games against the NFC West is done, with that bye week ahead of the Saints matchup after that. Let me show you this from Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network, who says this week, according to those who know him well, this is where Blank's eyes are. He means the Falcons owner Arthur Blank. If things have not improved after today's matchup, of course, going back to the Sunday game against the Cardinals, 2 back-to-back home tilts against the Rams and the Seahawks, there will likely be some serious discussions in Flowery Branch. As of now, sources say Blank has not had discussions about Quinn's future or how to proceed. But, Ian Rappaport says, it's clear that if there is some concern, especially with his defense giving up 53 points to the Texans, and with Quinn serving as coordinator, team allowing the second most points in the league. Now, it's worth pointing out that Rappaport says all this, but Chuck, there are very little specifics in here. There could be serious discussions. If things don't improve, there'll be a lot to think about. There's not a lot of specifics in this, which kind of goes along with a lot of national reporting you see sometimes where it looks good on a tweet or, kind of gets people talking, but really lacking in specifics. I do want to compare this, though, for a moment before I get your reaction to all this, to what Arthur Blank has said on the record to the AJC over the course of the last couple of weeks. Of course, talking to Steve Hummer after the game against Houston, Steve Hummer writing, asked if he was contemplating any big changes at the top of the Falcons organizational chart. Blank answered, no, he says. There are a lot of games left in the season. The staff has performed at a much higher level in the past. These players have too. My hope and my belief is they can find a way to remix the puzzle and have a different answer in terms of results. So that's what Arthur Blank said then. Now, the Falcons fan likes the idea of what Ian Rappaport says better than what Blank actually said on the record, but I'm more inclined to take Blank at his word right now. For the Falcons fans who think it's just a done deal that that Quinn is removed from his job at the bye week, I certainly think that should happen, but Blank's statement on the record is very different than what Ian Rappaport says sources close to blank are saying right now. And obviously, I think you have to be a lot more likely to believe what blank has said on the record.
Well, Ian Rappaport, me personally, what I read or what I just heard you say, that can be said for every coach that's on the hot seat. That's really generalizing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, it's one of those things that I believe what happens with these guys who are reporters, especially online, they want to be first. So remember I said this? Oh, yeah, I said this and that. But Arthur Blank, to me, what he said is valid. I mean, it's his team. And what I read from what Arthur Blank says is, I want them to be respectable, and I want to get to the end of the season. I don't want to blow it up.
Yeah.
I want to have to evaluate where we are, but I also want to finish it out, let Dan Quinn go out respectably, with respect. Does that make sense? Not blow it up now, and because if you blow it up right now, it is absolutely a negative on this city, this team, for quite some time. So to me, I think he hopes that they get to 500. Truthfully, if they get under 500, so he can do what? Go through the process and do it in the right way and not embarrass the franchise and have to put the fans and everybody under those circumstances.
On YouTube, Danford McBride, and on Facebook, Cheetah Walker both mentioning Thomas Dimitrov's role in all of this. Well, if you evaluate Quinn harshly, don't you have to evaluate Dimitrov much the same way? We're actually going to get to that in a moment. And I've got, in a couple of minutes, we don't have time for this now, but in a couple of minutes, I want to pitch you on what I think is kind of a out there idea for the Falcons personnel. And you're a level-headed guy. You played the game. I want to pitch you on an idea, and I want you to tell me if you think it's a good idea or not. It would involve Thomas Dimitrov and the personnel decisions for the Falcons. Before that, though, a little bit more from Blank. And we've shown you these clips, these quotes before, but it's a reminder of kind of where things stand after Ian Rappaport reported what he did for the NFL Network this week. Here's one more from Blank on the record within the last couple of weeks on the subject of Quinn's future. Obviously, the faith is being rattled right now, and I'm sure our fans feel the same way. This is an organization starting with the head coach and the general manager who know how to fight and know how to fight back. They don't know how to lose. They know how to win. They're tenacious. They're not going to lay down. Hopefully, it'll be good enough to have a respectable performance the rest of the season. Now, that to me is Blank just kind of tossing out a little bit of a sales pitch of, hey, things might get better, but he's got to put a good face in all this. That's an owner who's also being a little bit of a marketer right there, marketing that. But there's another quote that Blank gave in this same piece to Steve Hummer that I think is a lot more substantial and it's a lot more specific. This means something to me, Chuck, and you and I have talked about this before. He says of his team, they can turn it around. The Colts last year started 1-5, same record the Falcons have right now. Ended up in the playoffs, winning a wild card game. He says it can't happen. Now, this is the other sentence here that's really important. We haven't played a single divisional game yet. That's obviously an opportunity, but we have to play better than we have been playing, that's for sure. No matter who we're playing, we're not going to be successful unless we do that. So we acknowledge they have to play better. But it's this notion of haven't yet played a division game. If Ian Rappaport is right, and if all the Falcons fans who want Rappaport to be right, if they get their way, that would be Blank going back on the word that he gave to the AJC right there where a division game matters. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. You can't win the NFC South. New Orleans is too good. Yeah. They built, a 3-game lead on you as it stands right now? Maybe it's a 4-game lead?
They're 4-game.
They built a 4-game lead on you as it stands right now. The division is over. And you can't stop anybody from scoring anyway. So all of this is just, window dressing at this point in time. But Blank said there that he at least wanted to give Quinn a chance to play some divisional games or at least make that evaluation. Your first divisional game comes after the bye week. So do with that what you will, but certainly Blank's on-the-record statements don't seem to match up with the idea of those who know him well think things are, if they don't improve soon, there'll be serious discussions about firing Quinn. That's not what Blank has said on the record.
Well, what I hear, and I'm going to go back to what I said a second ago, respectable. And then what I read in when he talks about the conference, in the division, what that says to me is don't be last. I mean, all it says to me is find somebody you can beat, be respectable in the NFC South, and then come out here so you don't embarrass the franchise, and I won't fire you week 12 or week 13 or something.
There's something else that's going on here, too, and you heard a lot of this out of Flowery Branch this week, including an example from Matt Ryan I'm going to play for you in a moment. Before that, let's take a lot of your comments. AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Of course, Miller Lite is the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. It tastes great, and it's just 96 calories. Ryan Ramirez says, I'm tired of the nice guy coaches. I had hopes for Mike Smith and Dan Quinn, who are both defensive coaches. Still can't get a decent defense together, so skulls need to get cracked. Well, Ryan is he is ready to go here. I've asked you about this before. the nice guy coach, I think of Quinn as kind of being a player-oriented coach. Is that the kind of thing does that get you in trouble with modern players? And is it the kind of thing when, from a personality standpoint, Atlanta would need to correct if and when it makes a coaching change?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
The players have so much power, they're going to do what they want to do. So, Dan Quinn, you're still at the mercy of what these players want to do. Look what Jalen Ramsey just did.
Yeah.
Any player on the Falcons right now of pedigree can do the same thing.
Yeah.
So think about it. Tom Coughlin had to bow down in Jacksonville. So the Falcons, you come in here with a tough coach, you're going to have a lot of issues. Now, again, I like a head buster coach. I like a coach that'll crack that whip. But Tom Coughlin cracked the whip. You understand what I'm saying? Mike Tomlin tried to crack the whip with Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Those days are dead, and that's why you're starting to see the younger coach that can relate, that understands the technology, that understands all the culture. It's going to be. I'd be shocked if the Falcons brought in an older coach. I think they're going to go younger if they do go.
Interesting. Terry Young says, I'm a 53-year-old fan, so disappointed in this team. Since the Super Bowl, they have took a downward spiral. I believe Shanahan was the reason we were as good as we were. Dan Quinn appears to be lost. I don't know if he really is a head coach. Right now, he does appear to be a defensive coach at this point. So obviously for Quinn, that's almost the bigger issue right now.
Yeah.
Not the overall leadership of the team, because I think you're going to hear from players, and I'm going to give you an example of this in a moment. They like his overall leadership of the team. A lot of the stuff that Falcons fans are tired of, I think players like. I think right now Quinn's bigger issue is his ability to construct a defense that can get stops. You just played a bad team this past Sunday. You didn't get stops against Jared Goff and a Rams offense that's been struggling going into this game on Sunday. That's the spotlight. It's not so much how Quinn's overall leadership of the organization is. It's, can you design a defense to go out there and limit what the Rams are able to do, or any future opponent? Gosh knows with Russell Wilson looming what a mess that's going to be. But I think the point that Terry's making here is a pretty good one. Quinn's biggest issue right now is his role as defensive coordinator more so than it is his role as head coach.
Yeah, and I think the thing that makes it worse for Coach Quinn is you're unorganized. Right now, the entire defense is unorganized from the front end to the back end. Because think about this. We're talking about the front end, the D-line pass rush.
Yeah.
And we forget almost sometimes about the coverage. Then we talk about the coverage, and then all of a sudden, wow, they're not all coming together. And, the linebackers have struggled too. When you're the leader of a franchise and you look unorganized and you accept the role of a defensive coordinator, the people upstairs are watching. And that's the biggest thing I see in the Falcons. It just looks unorganized at what they're trying to do.
Checking over here on YouTube, Jay Tuff says, Oklahoma coach. He means Lincoln Riley. Let's get it done. You better believe I've got something on Lincoln Riley before we're done here today. How about this, though? Quentin Jordan says, if and when the Falcons make a coaching change, Rex Ryan for coach. Now, Wayne Bold and Master Blaster don't like that. I'm going to tell Wayne and Master here for a second, though. Y'all better be careful. Rex Ryan and Chuck are tight.
That's
and
my
Rex,
boy.
Yeah, listen,
I
Chuck
might get
loves
some love. If Rex come here, I got some love here now.
Chuck loves Rex Ryan.
But I don't love the 3-4. Rex is a straight 3-4 guy, but I will say this. It's doing pretty good for Mike Pettin up there in Green Bay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Real quick, on the college level, know who's going to get a head job? Jimmy Leonard at Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
They're running Rex Ryan's defense, just a note, but no, I don't want Rex here.
You mentioned Mike Pettin. I don't think it's here if and when Atlanta makes a change. Mike Pettin's going to be an NFL coach again, too.
Man, look.
He's going to be an NFL head coach again.
But Pet is not really, Pet is a get-in-your-face kind of guy now.
Yeah.
He's different than Rex. He knows how to manage players, but how do you fit those pieces instantly, real quick? And Mike Pettin, defense coordinator for Green Bay.
Yeah.
You bring Mike Pettin in, you're going to a true 3-4.
Yeah.
What we're going to do, attack. We already know there's a high possibility Vic ain't going to be here.
Right.
We still got tack.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there's some challenges there, but for Devondre Campbell and Deion Jones, they would become superstars in that kind of defense.
Can I keep it real just for 1 second?
You always keep it real.
The other day you told a story about Rex Ryan, about how he said he had to get his teeth fixed if he wanted to be a head coach. So I'm watching him we don't have a picture. I wish I could show this to you. I'm watching him on TV the other day. His teeth are as white and straight. Those things look like they must have cost $50,000. Yeah. He's got the widest, straightest teeth I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, it makes me jealous. I was laughing because you had said that, and he's on TV, he's cheesing. Them teeth are that big. I have to say, I thought that was pretty funny. Let's take a few more comments on Facebook. Then we're going to hear from Matt Ryan here. JJ Green says it's not the nice coaches. He says the team needs meaner players. Can you get mean and nasty? I mean, is that how you come out of a 1-in-5 slump to, just play a little nastier, play a little edge to you. Can you find that at this point in the season?
You either have it or you don't. Now I've seen players that are really efficient. They're not mean. They just do their job. I mean, they're not extra nasty. But if you want to be upper level guy, you got to have that dog in you. But the dog, I mean, it just doesn't come in you all of a sudden because we're 1-5.
Right.
It's got to be built in you. It's just one of those things when you play. It's just got to be part of your DNA. I don't believe you can definitely build it overnight. Not with 1-5. Let me become a dog.
I think that's a really good point. By the way, every time I mention Lincoln Riley, Jamel Mahoney in our Facebook comment section always comes at me. He says Lincoln Riley can't win the big game. He hasn't done anything but had 2 Heisman winners. But here's the thing. Baker Mayfield was like a walk-on, turned him into a Heisman Trophy quarterback. Kyler Murray was a baseball player, turns him into a Heisman Trophy quarterback.
To me, that's really amazing when you think of Kyler Murray and his height too.
Jalen Hurts wasn't starting at Alabama, and he's going to Oklahoma now, and he's certainly in the contention for the Heisman Trophy. So when you look at the way that Lincoln's developed quarterbacks, I mean, you can't say. You got to give him credit for that. It's a bad defense, a little bit better this year because they hired Alex Grinch. But you got to give him credit for what he's doing with these quarterbacks now.
I got to give him a lot of credit because my entire thought process changed. When you first talked about Lincoln, I said I want an old school NFL coach. I mean, someone that knows the process, bringing a nice, young offensive coordinator. But when I watched the Arizona Cardinals, what they did against the Atlanta Falcons, it blew me away. Mm-hmm. They ran plays I'd never seen. They were in packages. I can't remember the last time I seen 4 wides to the field in the NFL. I would love to see the Falcons have Sanu, Julio, Ridley, and then put Hooper on 4. Then they came back and went to a heavy set. I love what the Cardinals did. I would love to see some of that here in Atlanta.
But you know what? I was going back and looking at some of the Cardinal stuff with Atlanta on the tail end of that game and the aftermath of that game. And you're right. When Kingsbury came into the league at the beginning of the year, they were running 4 receiver sets or 5 receiver sets on almost every play. They were running no tight end sets whatsoever. But if you watch the way that he's evolved as the season's gone on, and it coincides with Arizona also getting better, Kyler Murray getting more comfortable, they're running more tight end sets now. In some cases, even more 2 tight end sets. So this is an example of if you bring a guy like Lincoln Riley to a place like Atlanta, if and when Atlanta makes a coaching change, you don't say, I want you to come here and I want you to run the Big 12 offense the entire time, because you can't do that in the NFL. You have to have tight ends on the field. Otherwise, your quarterback is going to get put into outer space.
No, you're right.
So you're going to have to play tight ends at some point in time. But you watch Kingsbury, he started incorporating more of what we think of as traditional NFL offense, and they're getting better offensively. It's, as you said, what you do in addition to that. Second half when you're trailing, okay, now it's 4 and 5 wide, and now it's very hard to defend. Or as a little bit of an extra wrinkle, rub routes and things like that to get guys open, that becomes really hard to defend. Right. But it's not Big 12 offense for 60 minutes. No,
because this is what I like. I watched them, they lined up, they had 3-by-1, 3 receivers on one side, 1 on the other. Then so Dan and those guys substitute. Those guys come in, they were a nickel. Then all of a sudden he goes 22, he goes big. Then I started seeing what? I see Falcons players running off the sideline. I think it was 3rd and 1. Falcons players what? It was all about personnel substitutions. He caught them off guard, and that's what's been happening a lot. I love what Arizona does because you're right. They ran the ball really well. But then when Kyler Murray needed to throw the ball, I mean, they did a great job. So you hit a home run. They're going big boy ball. Then they're getting creative with some of the things you saw in college.
Calvin Azell, and Calvin, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, says offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. That may be true, but listen, it's still a business. They're trying to sell tickets as well right now. Don't discount that. Alex Payman bringing up Dimitrov. We're going to talk more about him in a moment. Somebody also brought up, let me see if I can find this comment real quick. Octavius Yeoman says, point blank period, the defensive scheme doesn't work. 3-4 zone has too many holes. Did you see the video that Brian Baldinger put out this week of Falcons goal line defense? I mean, talk me through this. And now we don't have the video to show you because it's an NFL highlight. We can't really show it to you on the show. But a lot of you saw this from Baldy. Just huge gap right there in a goal line running play situation. Seems to be a pretty egregious breakdown.
Yeah, and the thing that was even more egregious that Isaiah Oliver was the guy who's supposed to fill the hole.
Tough.
I mean,
tough look.
I mean, that's the one I talked about Monday. He didn't really look like he was trying to be about that action. But to me, I mean, that was the number one. That was about numbers. You see the tackle block down, the tight end block down on tack. He gets smashed almost out of the arena. But then all of a sudden, Oliver's there by himself. They could have ran a bootleg. They could have ran anything, and and they would have scored. But the one was when what's the running back's name? Dave
Johnson.
Dave Johnson came out of the backfield, and the Falcons were in cover 3. they were almost like they were in cover 4. Everybody going back, running. They looked like they were going back to the tunnel, about to go get on the bus. There wasn't anyone even in the screen when I seen Baldy. Baldy's breakdown was pretty good.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty good.
No,
stuff.
I mean it was more. To me, it's more embarrassing as a player when you look at it, and so disappointing as a coach. Because I can tell you this right now, I don't believe they've tuned Q out. There's some teams that just can't get right. We got dumb players, not dumb people. You got dumb NFL players that what? Dumb players do the same thing that guys who don't make no plays, just like anything else. They do the same things. It's no different than a job. It's no different than that broadcaster that comes in here and he continues to mess up even though he's coached. It's the same thing in football. They're not special because they make millions of dollars. They do the same things as anyone else in the workplace.
It's AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. You heard us a moment ago read some of the quotes that Arthur Blank has recently given to the AJC on the record, not off the record. Hey, this is what I heard and this is what a source close to Blank may have said, but on the record stuff from Blank. And that means it's the best way to get your in-depth Falcons coverage as an AJC subscriber. The website to go to here is subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. You know, the AJC is a proud partner of the Atlanta Falcons. That means it's a special thank you to you for becoming an AJC subscriber. You're going to get yourself one of these Atlanta Falcons coolers. Now, you're going to the Mercedes-Benz on Sunday. You got a tailgate before the game. Parking lots open up, 8 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock, whatever time they open up. You can get settled in there and have your beverages in here, a little Miller Lite inside of here, and then the Falcons cooler to show off your team pride. It's a special thank you to you for being an AJC subscriber. A lot of different choices for you as well. Menu of options available, whether it be the daily e-paper right there on your device, or you can get Sunday print. You can get 7-day print as well. Have that thing show up on your doorstep each and every day, and you can start your morning by not just keeping up with the Atlanta Falcons, but all of your Atlanta news now at ajc.com. But if you want the Falcons cooler, you've got to use the website on your screen. Subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now. Now, before we turn the page on Quinn, let me let you hear a clip from Matt Ryan, because Ryan said something during the week this week that has, I think, echoed a lot of what you've heard Falcons players saying as well. It certainly seems like, despite what the record is, these Falcons players still very much enjoy playing for Dan Quinn. Here's an example of Matt Ryan saying essentially just that.
He's been awesome. You know, he is so consistent day in and day out. You know exactly what you can expect from him. And his message is always different, but it's fresh and it hits home to where we're at as a team. And he's done that the entire time, you know, that I've been with him and he's been here. But he's been great. I mean, he is day in and day out, higher energy, focused on the opponent and what we need to do that week to get a win. And, you know, I think the guys really appreciate that from him.
So a lot of players this week kind of saying that same thing of, hey, we like the message, we like just the overall vibe of this. And Chuck, you can speak to this as a player, what it feels like to play for a coach that's got your back, especially someone like, say, Devondre Campbell or somebody like that that may be in this league because of the fact that Quinn believed in him. So I certainly understand that bond. But I'm going to speak on behalf of the fans who say, well, man, if that's true, and if that's true for the other Falcons players, if y'all like playing for Dan Quinn, then go out and play for him. Then go out and show it on the field. You know, fight like mad for this guy, because I got NFL Network guys saying he's on his way out the door. I've got the strong assumption among many Falcons fans that isn't going to be the case, whether it be the end of the season or some other point in time. If you guys really like this brotherhood that Quinn's created for you, then go play for him this Sunday. It'd be a great time to start.
Well, let me just give you experience as a player. I love Jerry Glanville too.
Yeah.
We used to hang out and go to Fat Tuesdays, you know, hanging out as a team. We was kicking it.
Boy,
Jerry,
Fat
we
Tuesdays.
had
That's back in the day now.
Right. We had Fat Tuesdays on Wednesdays when after camp would break. On Tuesdays we go to on Wednesdays we go to Fat Tuesdays. We drinking. There was, you know, there's the first bus of the good guys, and there was the second bus of the guys that was ready to knuckle up and fight. So we love that. I love Jerry Glanville. And the next, I love June Jones. June was a nice, kind guy. He was, you know, never heard of fly, you know, I mean, wouldn't heard of anything. But them suckers absolutely had schemes, and everything they had about it, we knew it wasn't working conducive for us to make it to a Super Bowl. We knew it. We absolutely knew it. So they were somewhat really players, coaches, super cool with all the lingo, you know, too legit to quit, hit, hustle, you know what I mean, all the stuff with June and Jerry. But Dan Reeves came in. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to win a championship. We don't need all the hoops and holler, and, you know, we didn't have no slogans, and it was all about business. And Dan Reeves is not a crack the whip kind of guy. He's a let you be a man. Somewhat what I see now a little bit with the Falcons. It's almost like it's a frat boy, frat house type of thing with all the slow. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I understand. You like playing for Dan, but deep down inside, if you don't think that's in the best interest of winning a championship, if I'm a leader, I'm bringing it up, and I've done that before.
What was your relationship with Dan Reeves like?
It was great. I still talk to Dan now.
Good.
Yeah, I hit DR. He's doing good. He's up at the lake, him and his wife. And
good for him.
Dan's doing real good. He's a good dude.
Denzel McElrath, watching us on YouTube, says Falcons need better blitz plays. They need more aggressive the quarterback.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And Chuck,
agreed.
you broke it down for us last Friday beautifully. We loved the work that you did, but it's now been 3 consecutive games without a sack for the Falcons. That's not good. That's not good at all.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's
really
incredible.
It really is incredible.
You know, would you mind just giving us, especially for our YouTube audience that's kind of new to the show, would you mind just giving us a little bit of a thumbnail of better blitz, better 5-man rush, whatever else? How do you do that?
Well, the first thing you do, you got to have defensive backs that can cover man to man.
Right.
So that kills us right off the bat. But you're going to go in a 3-man front right here. This is some changes I talked about that help the Falcons.
Oh, look at this. We're back to the video.
Yeah, we're back to that.
Nice.
I would move Tack McKinley to the left. I'm putting Adrian Claiborne to the right. He's our best edge rusher. I'm changing a few pieces up, guys, so we can figure this out. Claiborne moves to the right now. He's the franchise. Grady Jarrett. Grady rushes best on the right. It's well documented. Grady on the right. Now, here's the question mark. Who fits in there? Jack Crawford absolutely fits in.
Nice.
I'm surprised he hasn't been playing very much. He's disciplined, and he can do all the things that he needs to do. He can bull rush to take care of Tack. Now, here's your guy, Vic Beasley. All right, Mike, can you pause that if you can? You can just hit a pause. I don't know if you can. If you can't. So what we're doing right here, Vic Beasley becomes the off-the-ball rusher. Vic Beasley has his hips. He doesn't have great hips. He doesn't have great change of direction. But the one thing that Vic Beasley does have, he has straight line speed. So you create Vic Beasley, he's a weapon. We want to bring Vic through the A gaps, the B gaps, all the different gaps behind those offensive linemen, white up there, or whatever they are, fat guys or whoever they are.
I feel like I could get around those offensive linemen. I feel like I could give a swim move to that left tackle.
Right, exactly. So what happens is Grady's always on the right. Then we can move Vic, coming on the right. So this is a package. Make Vic Beasley into a weapon where he's an attacker, he's the 5th rusher, and we got to go. So if we're going to give up touchdowns, why don't we give up touchdowns beating up the quarterback? The only way the Falcons are going to have success, you got to at least touch the quarterback. You got to be physical, and I'm good. Matter of fact, I would love to see the Falcons get a nice 15-yard penalty and absolutely smash Jared Goff. That's the mindset you got to have. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't seen nobody take a cheap shot. I mean, it is what it is. I'm okay with that.
So let me get a few Facebook comments here. Corey Smith said this should be it for Vic Beasley experiment. The guy is not playing well right now, he says, and kind of questioning why Dedrick Sinat's not being used more. So Corey echoing a lot of what a lot of Falcons fans are saying on kind of a show-me deal for Beasley this year, coming back when a lot of Falcons fans didn't expect him to. The fact that he's not playing better is just a massive disappointment to so many people.
Well, let me knock Sinat out real quick. Sinat can't rush. Sinat is a plugger. He's a nose guard and a traditional shade guy, so he's not an option for the pass rush. Now, Vic Beasley, from what I see, is not passionate about football. I'm watching Vic. He just don't seem like he truly likes the game.
Yeah.
Off season, Vic does, he lifts, he runs, but Vic Beasley has never once worked on pass rush. So Vic has no moves. And I'll say it a million times. I love Vic Beasley. He's a great person, all the other stuff. But in the NFL, everybody you watch has moves. You watch Frank Clark last night, Kansas City, he's using moves. Von Miller's using moves. I can go down the line. Vic Beasley hasn't gotten to the point where he is smart enough to do what the guys that get sacks do. You can't just bull rush and run speed all the time. We're gonna throw Tack in there too. Everything I just said, y'all add in for Tack too. Okay, so I don't want to waste no more time. Tack and Vic, everything I said.
Same statement.
Same statement.
Drew Lehman says this on Facebook: 250 snaps, more than 250 snaps in the Atlanta Falcons' last recorded sack.
That's incredible.
It's probably not good.
Yeah,
that's probably not good. Not a good situation for Atlanta. All right, it's AJC Falcons News Now. It's sponsored by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. It tastes great, just 96 calories. It's a great way to enjoy your tailgate if you're hanging out at home watching the game on Sunday. Great way to do that. I do think the Falcons can win this game. Now, I don't think they probably will, but this is a winnable football game. Now, I also said that, not so much against, well, actually, I probably said that now 3 weeks in a row, and I've been wrong 3 weeks in a row. I said it about Houston. Certainly said it about Arizona. Say it about L.A.
And last week, I didn't have a good feeling.
Yeah.
I really didn't at where they were. But this week, I think the Falcons are going to win.
Do you really?
I really do. I think the Falcons are going to be at home. I think things are going to be clicking. I think they're going to get a couple sacks. There's something, and this is going to tell me a lot about the Falcons, this game. When I'm backed up against the wall, my mindset, I'm coming out swinging.
Yeah.
I want to see, this is Dan Quinn's, the kind of guy he says he is. And I think he is. But I want to see Julio, those guys come out swinging. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's a great way to say it.
Yeah, I want to see those guys come out swinging. If they don't come out swinging at home against this team that they have a chance to beat, then to me, this is going to tell me that some of the guys might have turned it down.
Well, that's a very good point as well. Well, the LA Rams certainly swung with the fences this week, even before the game on the trade market, bringing in Jalen Ramsey, the disgruntled Jacksonville Jaguars defensive back, but one of the top players in the league when he's healthy and when he's focused on getting ready to play. And there is at least some indication that Ramsey will be used by the Rams maybe at least a little bit in this game on Sunday. I guess it kind of remains to be seen how much. Ramsey had kind of a weird statement about that, frankly. But Matt Ryan was asked, because Ramsey's spoken out about Ryan before. Ryan was also asked about Ramsey, and Ryan knows that if Ramsey's a part of this game plan, this is a good addition to a team that's really kind of already been good on the back end of its defense before. Here is Matt Ryan on Jalen Ramsey.
Well, obviously he's a great player and talented in the back end, really good ball skills and aggressive. As far as changing it, I mean, they've had good corners there before too. And so, I don't know. We'll see, if their scheme's a little bit different or if they try and adjust anything as we get to the game. But I don't think that it'll change who they are as a defense. I think they're, pretty consistent with who they are and what they believe in. And Wade Phillips has been that way, throughout my entire career. Very consistent, very good football coach.
Wade Phillips is also a guy you know as well, and Jalen Ramsey's a player that you know. What kind of impact do you think? I won't even ask you to predict this game because it's really hard to know just showing up this week and then maybe being a part of the game plan. But in general, how much more dangerous does Ramsey make the Rams defense? And if he were to play a lot, I guess, what does that mean for Atlanta?
Dangerous as being walking through a pasture of rattlesnakes.
Yeah. Ramsey's a good player.
He's a great player, and he's confident.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
He's confident. He's definitely confident.
Let me make a prediction here, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. They're playing a game right now.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Julio Jones most of this game.
That's fine.
Watch, I tell you, and that's what's going to surprise people. It ain't going to surprise the Falcons are already prepared for that. But I really believe Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Julio Jones. Y'all, does anyone really think Jalen has just been chilling with his back?
Yeah.
Does anybody think he hadn't been doing anything? This guy knew this was going to happen. He is prepared to go back. I like this because he's cocky, he's a little arrogant, but he's arrogant enough to know that I'm coming back and I don't want nobody to talk smack because I ain't going to be ready. Watch, I tell you, he's going to be on Julio.
So can I give you a different perspective on this? Because I think you're right. I mean, Ramsey playing makes the game more fun. Listen, a Ramsey versus Julio one-on-one matchup is that's why you tune in on Sundays, right? No matter which game you're watching, Falcons game, somebody else, elite players doing one-on-one battles against each other. You just don't get any better than that. That's why the NFL is the league as popular as it is. But the fact that that the Rams bring in Ramsey. So here's what they trade to get him: a 2020 first-round pick, a 2021 first-round pick, and a 2021 fourth-round pick. I believe we're going to see a scenario where the Rams go, I think I have this number right, 5 straight years without drafting in the first round. You're talking about win now mentality when you have not had a first round pick and you trade your next 2 to bring in Jalen Ramsey. And we know why this is. Something's not quite right with Todd Gurley. Now, Gurley may play on Sunday. Sounds like he might.
I hope he plays.
I hope he does too, because
really
I obviously love Gurley as a player. But one way or another, we're near the end of his career. One way or another, it's kind of hard to tell what you got in Jared Goff right now.
Say it again. Near who? End of what? Whose career?
I don't want to say near the end of his career, but Todd Gurley's not the player he once was.
No, I know that, but
Yeah.
you really thinking the next few years?
I shouldn't say end of his career. I'm saying end of him being like everybody's number one fantasy pick
elite.
and top of the league. I mean, you could make a case a couple years ago. Gurley was the best player in the league.
No question.
That's over with probably. But you're still in that window right now. The point is, the Rams have mortgaged their future for a win-now situation. I'm going to tell you this. That is a bad idea. However, sometimes it works. Sometimes when you roll the dice, sometimes when you spend a bunch of money, even if you've got a big credit card bill coming at the end of the year, sometimes you have a good time in the moment. I got to tell you something. I'm pretty inspired by what I've seen LA do this week, so much so that my advice to Atlanta would be, moving forward, you should do the same thing. So as mad as people are about Thomas Dimitroff or whatever else, for the next couple of years, you're about to be in salary cap jail with all the money you've given to all these guys. But you got a few more prime years for Matt Ryan. You got a few more prime years of Julio Jones. That's the nucleus of your organization. You got, a little bit more time, obviously, a lot of these other guys there as well. Whatever you got to do to win now. Whatever you got to do. And I'm not a salary cap expert, so I can't even necessarily break down the money when it comes to this kind of stuff. Trade up, trade, sign, mortgage, everything. Because when Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are gone, you got to reboot the whole organization anyway. You might as well do what the LA Rams are doing. You see a window that may still be open, that may not, but if it's open even a sliver, invest everything you can for a win-now situation, especially for Blank as kind of an aging owner who obviously, working on his legacy in terms of how he'll be remembered as Falcons owner, even more motivation to do that. Seeing what LA did this week going for Ramsey, it's a bad deal. You can't be trading multiple draft picks for a player like this. It's going to be an awful decision over the long term. Over the short term, it might work, and I think Atlanta ought to strongly consider doing the same thing.
Well, first on, you talked about a little bit about what the Rams did. Last year, I might have felt that way about Ramsey giving up the 2 firsts in the 4th rounder. I look at it totally different now, and a lot of it has to do with my experience being around the Oakland Raiders. I mean, the Raiders got all those picks, and they ended up getting, a lot of picks. You get Farrell from Clemson. I just love watching these young guys, and they have filled needs really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the kid Max Crosby. They got the year before Arden Key, all these different picks, and it's working. I mean, and so to me to give up 2 first rounders that fit, 2 different positions, I don't personally like it. Now the Falcons, I really think, I don't know whether Dan Quinn is here next year or not, and this has nothing to do with that. This has to do with the team. I really believe in my heart the next 2 to 3 years are the Falcons' years, and it might need a change. Yeah. And one of the first things I love with the Falcons, they're not getting a lot of hype right now. Lindstrom at guard and McGarry at tackle, they're real. They're the real deal. I've watched them. So as much as they're not sexy, but I think they're going to be, solid when it comes to, helping the Falcons, but not right now. But Matt Ryan, what would you say, how many years would you say Matt has left?
3 or 4 maybe. Right?
At least 4. At least 4, right? Well, for my argument, you can at least say 4.
Well, yeah. I'll go with 4. I'm talking about prime years of the best of his career.
But if he has a nucleus around him, I don't believe we need prime Matt Ryan. I just believe that with Julio, the running game, the offensive line, Matt works best to me when he has, people around him. Because remember, when he ain't got nobody doing nothing, I mean, he's not as good.
So if you believe that Lindstrom when healthy is an answer, if you believe Caleb McGarry is an answer, all the more reason to go all in. All the more reason to whatever all in means, whether it's big splash, big ticket free agent to the extent you have that money, or big move in the draft, either identifying the one guy, because you're going to have a pretty good pick as it stands right now. Falcons would pick 4th at the draft for today. So you're in position to have a really good pick. Maybe you trade back a little bit and acquire another pick for somebody
maybe
that really
Chase
wants
Young.
quarterback.
Back to
Ohio
State, maybe Chase Young.
That's the example of that. If Atlanta's going to have a good offense, if you bring in a more offensive-oriented coach, then one playmaker on defense makes all the difference in the world.
They'd be a beast.
If you're scoring 30 points a game, one playmaker on defense means all the difference in the world. Cody Paul on YouTube says it would be a desperation move. Here's the situation, though, Cody. I think the Falcons are very similar to the Rams. It's a desperation move from a team that should be in desperation mode. Here are the facts about both Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. When their careers are done, they're both heading for the Falcons Ring of Honor. And in Julio's case, he's definitely going to Canton, Ohio. Right. And I think that Matt Ryan will at least have a chance to do that. But if they are not a part of teams that win more, post NFC Championship and champions in 2016, the Super Bowl, if they're not part of teams that win more, their careers by many fans are going to be viewed as a disappointment. Individually, they'll be lauded. Julio, as I said, is going to go to Canton at least. But their careers, in terms of how it's viewed by a lot of Falcons fans, will be disappointments if they don't start having more wins collected. That means whatever the Falcons version of the Jalen Ramsey trade is, you got to make it.
I understand what you're saying because I would always look at some of the Falcons, and the one that comes to mind is Roddy White. I love Roddy.
Yeah.
But when I think of Roddy, no disrespect, I can't really think of a big-time, prime-time catch that won something big. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at it from that standpoint. I understand what you're saying about Matt. Now, Julio's on a different level. Roddy, Ring of Honor, one of our greatest players of all time, but you can't name me 3 plays that help them get to another level. And maybe it is. Maybe I'm not, looking at it from that standpoint. But you're right. The Falcons, right now, you will waste a little bit of that talent, but yeah, I mean, it really is a tough situation for the Falcons. They're in a tough situation.
John White says this of Ryan, that he put up MVP numbers last year with nobody doing anything around him. Nobody. I'm talking about being sacked 40-plus times. Nobody. Yeah, it's been tough, and that's why you'll hear me. We'll get into the whole stinking for Lincoln thing later on. That's why I'm pushing Atlanta when it does make a coaching change. I feel like that's inevitable. Middle of the season, end of the season, whenever, there's a new coach on the rise for the Falcons. I think it needs to be an offensive guy. That's a part of this philosophy for me of this win now, desperation mode, make the most of the Matt and Julio era. I'd love for it to be Lincoln Riley, but if it can't be Riley for whatever reason, I want it to be somebody else. I think that you've got to maximize what you're getting around them, so it's not one of these situations of, hey, Matt and Julio are giving you a yeoman's effort for an offense and a team that's not very good. Bring in an offensive-minded coach and change that narrative.
Yeah, and they can change that narrative. Then you go out and get the top defensive coordinator you can find, somebody that can send some pressure. Because in this new NFL, you got to be able to, serve up some pressure.
Right. Well, Marco Smith says. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead and make your point.
No.
Marco Smith says something I firmly believe in. A team that averages 28 points or better changes the dynamic of their defense. It doesn't have to be great. I feel like that's 1,000,000% true. That if you're near the top of the league in offensive production week in and week out, you can get by with an average defense. Look at what the Falcons rated on like Football Outsiders DVOA and stuff like that in 2016 when they went to the Super Bowl. This was not a highly rated defense back then, but when you're scoring 35 points a game or whatever it was, 30 points a game, whatever it was they were scoring, you can get away with it. I think that's true. That's why it's about maximizing the offense and find yourself one big-time playmaker on defense. That changes the whole scenario for Atlanta.
And it does. And the thing is, somebody has to step up. Every week we talk about Grady. Who else? You know what I mean? But to me, you got to have a playmaker. You got to have a playmaker and somebody that somewhat of an enforcer. I like when they had Dwight Freeney. He would also, you see him on the sideline helping guys and different things with helping Vic and other guys. But I got a nice scenario for you. And a guy who Dan Quinn is very familiar with.
Yeah.
If I were the Falcons, if they were really serious about getting back after it and getting, going into this division play and having a chance, I'm going to New England and getting Michael Bennett.
Okay.
Michael Bennett is
a little bit of a head case now.
Dan has dealt with him.
Okay.
I mean, look,
right.
I think, but he's been a lot of places.
I like where you're going with this. I do.
See, my thing is, I don't know the dynamics of the head, him being crazy and all that.
Yeah.
But all I know is he's outspoken. Okay, what? Head case is crazy, right? Everybody's looking at us now. Head case is crazy, right? All right, but look, I'm going to get Michael Bennett. I'm taking Vic Beasley down, right? I'm putting him as that 5th rusher. You can play Michael Bennett at D tackle. You can play him at nose. He comes in, but he brings that dog. See, this is one of the disappointments that I have in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Everybody that you bring in is not going to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
Championship teams aren't always have nice guys. Here's the best example of that. The New England Patriots, after all that Antonio Brown just did, they brought him in. The teams that are winning championships, they're bringing Randy Moss.
Take a flyer.
And for the Atlanta Falcons to sit up there and say, we have this model of basically New England, no. Thomas didn't bring the New England philosophy. This is something different. New England will bring in guys who, as you say, a little squirrely in the head.
Yeah, well, I honestly, I kind of see where you're going with that. I think that's a pretty good idea. Wayne Bolton says our line will be good the next 4 years. All the more reason to really be aggressive. If you feel like you've got a couple young guys, when healthy, McGrary and Lindstrom, that can help you out here, then take advantage of this window while it's still open. If you had no answers in the offensive line, I'd tell you might as well start the whole thing over again. But the fact that you might have some answers on offensive line, all the more reason to take a flyer on kind of a personnel guy who wore out his welcome, or a player who wore out his welcome somewhere else. Take a real big stab at some game changer in the draft, like the pass rusher at Ohio State. Just do whatever. You've got just enough in place where a Rams swing for the fence, Jalen Ramsey type trade, they're going to one day regret doing it, but living in the now, living in the moment, there's something to be gained from that. And I think for Atlanta, it's very much the same way because you got a lot of legacies on the line. Thomas Dimitroff's been here for a long time. It's his legacy on the line. Ryan, he'll always be viewed as a very good player, but in terms of the overall career, it's a legacy on the line. Julio's a Hall of Famer, but in terms of his impact on the Falcons' fortunes, legacy on the line. Blank, beyond just building Mercedes-Benz Stadium and beyond, being kind of a fan-friendly owner, it's a legacy on the line here for him there as well. All the more reason to be aggressive. Mortgage the future if you have to.
But we've seen crazier things happen.
Yeah.
We've seen teams lose their star quarterback, lose a few other people, like the Philadelphia Eagles, and win it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get a little luck here and there, but I believe this nucleus is set up for the Falcons eventually, because the defensive and offensive line, they're building. You got Grady, you got a couple other guys. Hopefully your attack comes through. Vic probably won't. But the Falcons need to address the secondary like yesterday. You said it's a passer's league. Mm-hmm. Lincoln Riley might come in. What if Lincoln comes in and he's at, let's just say, whoever?
Right. Dallas, somewhere like that.
Dallas.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that feel. You know what the crazy part is? I can see the Falcons getting it together and going all the way eventually in Matt's career. But then I also, on the other side, I can see where the guys continue to disappoint, and then the Falcons basically become the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I think that's a fair point. Let me get a couple comments here, then I want to ask you a question that admittedly is a little bit depressing. So I want to there's a question on today's show coming up. It's a little bit depressing. Let's do a couple comments before we get there. John Lambert said the Falcons haven't had the guts to take a chance since the, quote, Vic situation. And we all can remember the mood around Atlanta when they announced they were trading up for Michael Vick. There's huge excitement there. Now, I would dispute the fact they haven't done anything like that since then because the trade up for Julio was very much one of those situations.
One of the greatest trades. A guy who's a Hall of Famer.
So I guess what I'm saying is when you see how, and I'm not even sure what the answer to all this is, like what the Falcons' version of a Jalen Ramsey trade is. I'm not even really sure what it is. But you know how fans respond when there's a big, bold move that takes place. And right now, the conversation around Atlanta is all quite negative. So unless you spend the offseason hiring a huge name coach, unless you're gonna have either people not talking about you at all, apathy setting in, or people saying some things about you that aren't all that kind. So this offseason is a chance to, especially with the Braves kind of floundering after their playoff loss, and Hawks kind of on the move right now in the early stages of that anyway. In the Atlanta sports landscape right now, you have a chance to do something to kind of get back on the front page again, to kind of get people talking about you again. There's an opportunity here to use this crisis to your benefit. The crisis of losing games, being 1-5, use it to your benefit. Make nothing but bold moves. Eventually, you'll have to go back and pay the price on this. The credit card bill's going to come due. But for now, a chance to do something.
Well, you do have a chance to do something because I'm glad to be on this show. So viewers, guess what? Right. You get an opportunity to talk to someone who was on some sorry-ass teams. Hey, man, I know what it's like. I know exactly what the players are going through right now. And when you're talking about getting the narrative right, it is the worst feeling ever here in Atlanta when you're losing. Yeah. I mean, you walk through Lenox Mall, man, get it together, Chuck.
Oh, no.
They ain't asking for the autograph.
Come on now.
I mean, I'm off Cascade, man.
You heard what happened to Myles Garrett the other day.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett from the Browns, supposedly, that's a tough situation.
Look, hey, this is a true story.
Yeah.
We were 0-5 one year. I'm not sure when Deion came back. Maybe it was 92, 94. Mm-hmm. I'm down in Athens. My folks down there. I'm at Weaver D's.
Uh-oh.
I'm at Weaver D's in there. This is a true story. Someone came in there. It was a super big Falcon fan from Athens. When I turned around to leave, to get my stuff, they smacked my entire.
Come on now.
Come on, bro.
And then if you do anything about it, it's a headline.
Well, I didn't say I didn't do nothing about it.
Well, I don't know the statute of limitations up on that story or not.
I didn't say I didn't do nothing about it, but we didn't have camera phones. There were none of these back in the day. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I didn't do anything. I got some guys down there. Some guys that got some guys.
I don't know nothing about nothing but statute of limitations and whatnot. By the way, on a more serious note, James Davis in our comment section brings up the idea of that elite safety. Now, when you look at Keanu Neal's injury, he says, could the Falcons make a trade in that regard? obviously, when you don't have like the Cam Chancellor style safety, when you don't have somebody like that, if you're trying to run a Dan Quinn style defense, but you don't have a Seahawks style safety, that is a problem, right?
Yeah, it is. And right now, you make a great point. The Falcons got a plan without Keanu Neal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're now looking for a safety eventually in the draft. You got so many holes to fill. The question mark is, can we count on Keanu? It's not his fault he got hurt. But in the NFL, the most important part is having the guys that can play.
Yeah.
And you got to trust that they can be ready. And I just think another question mark we'll have amongst many, what do we do at the safety position? Because right now, Keanu Neal is still a question mark.
Yeah, so here's the depressing question I want to ask you. Actually, let me tell you about this first. It's AJC Falcons News Now. It's sponsored by Miller Lite, the official beer of the Atlanta Falcons. Tastes great. It's just 96 calories and a great choice for you as you're getting ready to watch the game on Sunday. So here's the depressing question I wanted to ask you. When you play the Rams, it's hard for me not to think back to that 2015 draft when Atlanta drafted Vic Beasley instead of Todd Gurley. How do you think things would have been different for Atlanta, if at all, had they taken Gurley back then?
I think if they would have taken Gurley back then, I have the answer. I think Gurley would have absolutely helped the fan base. I think the place would have been filled. But I believe that the Falcons, if they get to the NFC Championship game, I think the difference between Gurley and those other running backs, I believe Kyle Shanahan would have ran the ball because you got a top-notch guy. I really believe. I'm just telling you, I believe he ran the ball. That's what I believe. But here's the good part. So it ain't all depressing, bro. I believe because we got Gurley, they would have been forced to get a pass rusher, and it would have been Vic Beasley.
Now, in fairness to Beasley, he does have 15.5 sacks in the big year of 2016. So he showed up big for the Falcons when they needed it. But Gurley has been obviously by far and away the better player. And I know that if you're Thomas Dimitroff and you would hear this discussion, or anybody associated with the Falcons at the time, you would hear this discussion and you'd say, well, that's hindsight. Obviously, you can go back and redraft these players. But the fact of the matter is, there are plenty of people around Atlanta. Obviously, a lot of those are Georgia fans, but plenty of people around Atlanta saying you should have drafted Gurley to begin with. It was largely thought that Gurley may be the best individual talent available in the 2015 draft. And I think the message here is, the lesson learned from all this is, when you're in a draft, regardless of position, just take the best player available. They took position of need over best player available, and that's almost always a mistake.
Yeah, you're right. And at the time, I didn't have a problem with Vic Beasley from the standpoint of a pass rusher. I wanted some other pass rushers I thought that would be better fits than Vic Beasley. But it's tough because right now, to me, both of the players, even your boy Gurley, are a little suspect. I mean, let's not act like Gurley's been rolling like he's Emmitt Smith.
But he's hurt. He's like knees messed up.
That's your account.
I'm not even sure what it is. But
don't matter.
Messed up.
Don't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you're not playing, that's part of who you are when you're injured, or if you don't. So to me about Gurley, I don't know whether he's injured or not. But what happened at the Super Bowl was glaringly to me that something ain't right. So it carried into from last year into this year.
Yeah.
So both of them. Vic had an incredible year where he could have been Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, Vic really had a heck of a year, and I love that year, even though he didn't get a sack in the playoffs. But Gurley had an incredible year, and what has he done? So maybe we shouldn't have got Vic or Gurley. How about that?
Well, they did when they.
I mean, at that pick, I expect the guy to have a great career.
Well, along those lines, J.J. Green said they should have moved up and got Khalil Mack that year. Mack's been a good player, and I'm guessing you probably like him pretty well.
I love Khalil Mack.
John Lambert says about Todd Gurley, he would not have tried as hard, wouldn't have been the same. At home, Gurley wouldn't have been pushed. Look at Jason Hayward for the Braves, Jeff Francoeur for the Braves. Hometown guys don't always pan out. Maybe that's true, but when you see the dynamic quality that Gurley has brought to the Rams offense for a while, you don't win the NFC without him, even though he wasn't a huge factor for them in the playoffs a year ago. You don't win the NFC without Todd Gurley last year, complimenting what Jared Goff was doing with the passing game. So hard for me not to imagine that he wouldn't be a pretty impressive player there had he come here. So I guess it sort of is what it is. It's water under the bridge now, but hard not to look at that Gurley career and say, and that working in the Kyle Shanahan offense at the time especially would have been a nice thing for Atlanta to be able to have.
Yeah, but what you said a little just now kind of contradicts the whole Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan's a thrower. We would have been here arguing why is he not running Todd Gurley.
Well, we'd be arguing about something no matter what.
Yeah, I mean,
they'd be 15-1. We'd be arguing about something.
Yeah, but so I just think that's the beauty of it. We'll be thinking about that forever, and the debates will go on.
All right, we're going to give you a preview of Week 7 games around the NFL coming up in just a moment. But here on AJC Falcons News Now, let me also remind you, still a chance for you to get one of these really cool Falcons-branded coolers when you become a subscriber to the AJC. Get the in-depth coverage from the Falcons. Subscribe.ajc.com/Falcons News Now, the website to go to. A lot of choices. You can get the daily e-paper plus Sunday delivery, 7-day home delivery, and the e-paper right there on your device. You can cancel, of course, anytime, but when you sign up to be a subscriber to get the in-depth Falcons coverage as a special thank you, this Falcons-branded cooler, because the AJC is a proud partner of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, speaking of AJC Falcons coverage, D'Orlando Ledbetter within the last hour or so does report it is official. Desmond Trufant not available to the Falcons for Sunday, but it looks like James Carpenter, the left guard, will be able to go. So make sure you check out D-Led on Twitter. He's got a couple of updates for you on that. Now, speaking of updates, can I give you my sort of twice weekly stinking for Lincoln Riley
I love
update?
it.
Okay.
You're hitting home runs. Let's go.
So, sports radio blowhard Colin Cowherd was on the radio this week saying that he thinks that Lincoln Riley is on his way at some point in time to another organization, not Atlanta. He thinks it's the Dallas Cowboys. Let me let you hear Colin Cowherd making his pitch for why he thinks eventually, whether it's this year or not, Jerry Jones is going to zero in Lincoln Riley as the next coach of the Cowboys. Take a listen to this.
I think Jerry already knows who his next coach is. I'm not sure he's ready to hire him, but I know who Jerry's next coach is when he decides to hire him. Maybe this year, it may be 2 years down the road. It's Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, and there's two reasons why I think Lincoln Riley is going to accept it when Jerry offers. Lincoln Riley, first of all, is brilliant. He makes every quarterback work. Number one, he made Baker Mayfield into a star. Jalen Hurts was benched in Alabama. He's a star. Kyler Murray was a baseball guy over a football guy. Made him into a star. Dak Prescott. That'd be a pretty good fit now, wouldn't it? Secondly, there's a major burnout factor happening in college football for coaches. It used to be there was a national letter of intent day on February, 5th. Now there's 2 signing dates, meaning college football recruiting is a non-stop job. It used to be you had time off. There were times you didn't recruit. There were big gaps in it. And the feeling was college football life as a coach was better than the NFL life. It was less of a grind. You lived in a small town. You controlled the roster. The media was small market. They weren't banging on you all the time. You got more time off with your wife and kids. It was a great life. It's not as great a life as it used to be.
So I'm going to tell you right now, what Cowherd says at the end there is 1,000,000% true. Coaching college football is getting way harder because of the recruiting cycle. It's just a 12-hour, it's a 12-month thing now. And if you can go to the NFL where all you have to do is coach the players that you've added through the draft of free agency, that is going to be a better life for most coaches. That's one of the reasons why I think eventually Riley will have to try the NFL. Also, he's going to make more money by doing that as well. However, the first part of that, this idea of, well, eventually it's going to be Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, this is the perfect example of kind of the national media bias that sort of designs coverage around the most popular teams. It is just a verifiable fact the Dallas Cowboys have more fans than virtually any team in the NFL. Therefore, if you're a national radio host or you're one of these talking heads on TV, talking about the Cowboys is just good business. So it's great business to say the hottest name in the coaching market, Lincoln Riley, is going to coach for the Cowboys, because that gets the people who either hate the Cowboys or love the Cowboys, which is a huge portion of your audience, that gets them leaning in and paying more close attention. But on the basis of facts, the idea that Dallas is a measurably better place for Lincoln Riley, you can't back that up. Dak Prescott's not as good a quarterback as Matt Ryan is. And if I'm a head coach that's good at developing quarterbacks, I don't want another project if I don't have to have one. I want to kind of come work with a finished product at the sort of near the end of his career and let him help establish my legacy for a change, as opposed to me always having to build up somebody else's legacy. I truly believe that there are a lot of reasons, if it's an A or B choice, that for someone like Lincoln Riley, the Falcons' job would be more attractive than the Cowboys' job.
Well, I look at it differently. I think Lincoln Riley going to Dallas would be absolutely superb, because you look at the region, he'd still have connections to a lot of people that are in his area. And then I guess number two, Dak Prescott, for where the future is headed, is better option to me than Matt Ryan. It's a spread. He's basically needs a guy that can run. He has running back there. He has a receiver in Cooper. He has an offensive line. He has an owner that's, just starving for a Super Bowl. And here's the next thing. He has a defense. So Lincoln Riley walks into Dallas now with the defense. So I think it's a better fit for them when you look at the big picture as far as the pieces that go there fit better. And we've been talking about Matt Ryan's in his twilight. So I'm going with Dak. I'm giving Dak that $30 million a year, bringing in Lincoln Riley, and the Cowboys will win the Super Bowl in the next couple of years.
Let me push back on one thing, though. Falcons Hawks Braves fan extraordinaire on YouTube says, who wants to deal with Jerry Jones' foolishness? A background coach. And that's kind of what Jerry Jones has been, a meddler. He's been involved in the process. Now, he's also in a little bit later stage of his life, so maybe he's not as active in being meddling anymore, but that's really been the case. I'm going to tell you this right now. Prior to Arthur Blank buying the Falcons, was it year 2000 that Blank buys the Falcons, 99, 2000? Yeah, somewhere right around the turn of the century.
01, 02.
Prior to that, obviously Dallas had been one of the signature organizations in the NFL, a gold standard organization. But since Blank has owned the Falcons have been a better organization than the Cowboys have been.
Right.
So, if you want to talk about the great moments in Cowboys history, you've got to dust off the history book. You got to start flipping back to Jimmy Johnson, flipping back to Tom Landry. Neither program's been that great over the last 20 years, but since Blank has owned the Falcons, it's been a better city to live in. It's been a better organization to work for.
Right.
I really think if Atlanta wants to put itself out there in the open market in a day and age where the best offensive minds are going to be heavily coveted, I think Atlanta, because of the way that Blank has managed this team, because of the way that the organization has kind of cultivated a reputation, not weird and dysfunctional the way the Cowboys have been, if Atlanta wants to sell itself to a guy like Lincoln Riley in the event that its coaching position comes open, I think Atlanta can sell itself as simply the better organization.
Right.
Jerry World ain't that cool anymore. Everybody's got a nice new stadium now, including the Atlanta Falcons. I think Atlanta can sell 2 decades worth of not winning as much as its fans want to, but in comparison to the most overrated team in the world, the Dallas Cowboys, I think Atlanta can sell itself as a better spot for a guy like Lincoln Riley.
Well, you just said it. The Cowboys, they're not America's team. They're an international brand.
That's true.
Number 2, what I see is loyalty from Jerry Jones with giving Dak an opportunity. Also, the running back, Ezekiel Elliott. Randy Gregory, he saved them, 5-6 times. He puts money into his players. So from what I see is Lincoln Riley will have some leverage. For him to pull Lincoln Riley out of college, and we know Lincoln Riley is going to have the Atlanta Falcons and multiple teams, Lincoln Riley will get some control when it comes over this team. So I just, again, from my standpoint, I think Atlanta's a good place. Atlanta has no defense right now. Atlanta got an old quarterback. So when you look at the little intangibles, it is, the Cowboys are the Cowboys. And I would love for them to come to Atlanta, but I still think, to me, let me just say this.
Yeah.
The biggest point in all this, Dak Prescott will be more effective in that offense. Matt Ryan can't run. I'm running zone option when I know the quarterback ain't never going to run.
Yeah.
And going to work with Lincoln Riley.
Well, how big of an NBA fan are you? You like the NBA?
Yeah, I like the NBA.
Okay, so
I'm a Hawks fan.
This situation to me is the exact same thing here in the NBA all the time. Kevin Durant's going to the Knicks. LeBron James going to the Knicks. Everybody's going to the Knicks, right? Because the Knicks are a little bit like the Cowboys in that they have just millions of fans. And all these national media grifters can go on TV and tell Knicks fans what they want to hear. Big free agent, he's coming your way. But really what ends up happening, they go to Brooklyn instead of going to the Knicks. So they go play for the wherever instead of playing for the Knicks because for whatever reason, the Knicks organization is in the minds of the people who can sign there not worth what Knicks fans think it is. I think the Cowboys in the NFL are the NFL version of the Knicks. The kind of thing where it gets the media all stirred up to talk about it, but ultimately, a guy like Lincoln Riley, people assume because he's just north of Dallas in his coaching career now, I think he tells the Cowboys to kick rocks. Now, I'm not telling you coaches in Atlanta, but when Riley coaches in the NFL, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't believe it's for Dallas.
Well, someone who needs to kick rocks is you talking about the New York Knicks. The Knicks ain't got one good player.
Right. But Dallas, to me, is kind of the same way.
Dallas has stars. I mean,
they have a star on the side of their helmet.
And the Knicks has the universally worst owner, not just in the NBA, maybe in sports. So I understand. Look, I would like to see Lincoln Riley here. I think he would do good here.
Yeah.
But if it came down to Atlanta or Dallas, and I'm Lincoln Riley, man, I'm going with Dak. He's young, getting better, and he runs the spread. Again, so you're right. You're right. Arthur Blank, they've been a better organization, but nobody won nothing. So to me, that's a push. The Falcons come and say, hey, we're a better organization. And actually, if you go to Dallas and see them 4 Super Bowl trophies, that to me has a lot bigger impact than the Falcons saying we got a better record. We're the better organization. So I think the Cowboys got that advantage.
We're late. So let me try to do this real quick. James Davis says that if Riley came here, he'd let him pick the GM. I would too. If Riley wanted to come coach this team, job's not open right now. But if the job is open and Riley wanted to come, I'd let him pick the GM.
We ain't got enough time for me to get back into that one because I 100% disagree. But that's a whole nother story, man. You're gonna let this young cat who come out of college, he ain't ready to pick no GM.
I'm trying to mortgage the future for the
good.
Falcons' behalf.
I'm gonna shut it down because we'll go all day.
All right, let's do this real quick because we are running a little bit late. Let's take a look at the upcoming games of the weekend. What jumps out at you? Miami at Buffalo, Jacksonville at Cincinnati. I hadn't seen one yet. Minnesota, Detroit's not bad because you know what? Detroit's not a bad team. They got jobbed by the officials on Monday Night Football. That's not a bad team, and that's not a bad game right there.
I like Detroit.
Yeah.
Matt Stafford doing pretty good.
Oakland, Green Bay, a little bit of interest there.
I like that.
Houston, Indianapolis, the last two teams to beat Kansas City before they won last night against Denver. They'll go head-to-head with each other. Arizona at the Giants. We'll see, after looking good against the Falcons, what it's like to travel across the country.
I don't see how many sacks the Giants get on Arizona. I'm just interested.
That's a good point. Good point. San Francisco also traveling cross-country to take on Washington, who's just an awful, dreadful team. Boy, this is a terrible schedule of games. I haven't seen one yet I'd stay home to see. Chargers, Tennessee, that ain't it. New Orleans, Chicago.
I'd stay at home.
For that one, yeah, that's a pretty good game.
Because I'm going to be home anyway, so I'm going to watch it.
Baltimore, Seattle's a pretty good game. Philly and Dallas, yeah, I guess so. Boy, this is a rough stretch
Philly and
of games.
Dallas is a great game.
Oh, come on. Dallas is not good. Dallas lost to the Jets
That's a
last week.
rivalry, man. That's a historic rivalry.
I'm not telling you I won't watch it. I'm just telling you it's not as great a game as you're making it out to be.
Well, no. Right.
New England at New York. Patriots about, I think, a 10-point favorite there. So, yeah, that is kind of a rough slate of games. That is not a great slate.
Yeah, you're right. But for the guy like me, I'm going to watch him anyway. I'll sit there all day.
Fair enough. Now, what I like to see every week is when you bring in one of the cool things from your career. I always enjoy that.
Get down to get this one.
Uh-oh, poor Chuck.
Get the bad knee. My garbage can fell down. I'm beat up a little bit.
By the way, James Peterson says that he thinks that Dallas-Philly is a great game, so I apologize.
Well,
if you're losing to the Jets, it's hard to imagine me having you playing a great game versus anybody.
What's up with you with the Cowboys today, man? Why are you picking on the boys, man?
I'm just trying to tell the truth. Trying to tell the truth. This is a cool picture.
All right. This is picture day in 1998 at the Super Bowl. This was my group of guys that were just super awesome.
Boy, that's great. Miami, sun shining, everybody having a good time.
Travis Hall, Shane Dronette, Lester Archambault. They called us a bomb squad. And a little bit interesting things I like to tell people that when they make comparisons to the other lines, 3 guys on this defensive line had double-digit sacks at one point in their career.
Plus, a lot of nicknames. You have Big Chuck, Nana the Rhino, Lester the Professor.
Yeah, Shane. They were a good guy.
A lot of
Ezra
nicknames.
Tuaella.
Yeah.
Sway the Big Swole, and just a great group of guys. And this team was really close, and really thankful. And all of us are still close. And
I missed the throwback. Squad. I missed the throwback uniforms too.
Yeah,
they wore them versus Tennessee this year. Good looking uniform as well.
Yep.
Chuck, that's really good, man.
Hey, I'm trying to hold it down.
To this day, best win in Falcons history, 98 NFC Championship game.
Appreciate that.
Best win in Falcons history, even to this day. Really good stuff. Hey, thank you all for being with us on AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. For our burgeoning audience on YouTube and for the folks who've been tuning in on Facebook, share the show with your friends. A couple different ways to watch this thing on video. Every Monday and Friday at 1 p.m., we do AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite. Maybe the Falcons win on Sunday against the Rams. They're going to win. And we'll have something fun to talk about on Monday. So we'll see you Monday afternoon. Y'all enjoy the game and your weekend. We'll talk to you next week here on AJC Falcons News Now, sponsored by Miller Lite.